quorum is present, so I will call this meeting of the Madison Plan Commission of November 7th, 2022 to order. First, we'll get some information from our technical facilitator. Jesse?
All right, welcome to our virtual Plan Commission meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you're able, please activate your video when you're speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raised hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which their hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public that have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jesse. First, communications, disclosures, and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals? I don't see any raised hands. Next, minutes of the September 29th, 2022 special meeting and the regular meeting of October 24th, 2022. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing no raised hands, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Commissioner Solheim. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Shepard. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Next, we will go through the upcoming meetings. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, November 21st, followed by one meeting in December on December 12th, and both will start as usual at 5:30. We also have a special meeting on December 8th. That one starts at 5 o'clock. Okay, now we will do our consent agenda. Well, first, let me ask, I don't think we have any public comments. Is that correct, Heather? Okay, no public comments. I will read then the agenda item for those agenda items that are on the consent agenda. So agenda item 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, 13, and 14 are to be referred to November 21st. And then also on consent agenda items 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 20 is to be placed on file. It was withdrawn by the applicant, placed on file without prejudice, and then agenda item 21, 22, 23, and 24 are also on the consent agenda. Are there any requests to separate any of these and have them considered in our regular course of business? Seeing no raised hands, I will then read the description of these into the agenda, into the record of the meeting. Again, the first item is Agenda Item 2, Legistar 74140, amending the City of Madison official map to remove mapped reservations for future public streets located in the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 30, Township 8 North, Range 10 east of the City of Madison on land generally addressed as 2202 through 2320 Darwin Road. Agenda Item 6, Legistar 7481, creating Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property located at 517 Grand Canyon Drive and 6617 Odana Road, 19th Alder District, from Commercial Center District to Commercial Corridor Transitional District. Agenda Item 7, Legistar 73822, located at the same address in the 19th Alder District, consideration of a conditional use in the proposed Commercial Corridor Transitional District for a mixed-use building containing greater than 60 dwelling units to allow a hotel to be converted into a mixed-use building containing 153 apartments. Agenda Item 8, Legistar 73826, approving a certified survey map of property owned by Madison Hospitality Hotel, located at the same address, also 19th Alder District. Agenda Item 9, Legistar 73820, located at 833 Hughes Place, 14th Alder District, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a commercial building. Agenda Item 10, Legistar 74082, creating Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property located at 2405 Cypress Way, 825 through 837 Hughes Place, 810 West Badger Road, 14th Alder District, from suburban residential buried and commercial corridor transitional districts to commercial corridor transitional district. Agenda Item 11, Legistar 73825, approving a certified survey map of property owned by the City of Madison and Centro Hispano, located at the same addresses that I just read in the 14th Alder District. And then again, Agenda Items 12, Legistar 73814, Agenda Item 13, 73815, and Agenda Item 14, Legistar 74046 are all to be referred to the November 21st Plan Commission meeting. And then also on the consent agenda, Agenda Item 15, Legistar 74052, located at 6706 through 6714 Odana Road, 19th Alder District. Consideration of a demolition permit to demolish 2 commercial buildings. Agenda Item 16, located at 74053, same addresses. Consideration of a conditional use in the Commercial Center District for dwelling units in a mixed-use building to construct a 4-story mixed-use building with approximately 4,800 square feet of commercial space and 124 apartments. Agenda Item 17, Legistar 74061, approving a certified survey map of property owned by North Point Holding, LLC, same address, 19th Alder District. Agenda Item 18, Legistar 74295, located at 5122 Spring Court, 19th Alder District, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a street-facing facade of a single-family residence. Agenda Item 19, Legistar 74048, same address, consideration of a conditional use for lakefront development to allow construction of an addition to a single-family residence exceeding 500 square feet. And then to place on file Agenda Item 20, Legistar 73817, because it's been withdrawn by the applicant, it should be placed on file without prejudice. Agenda item 21, Legistar 74049, located at 5706 Lake Mendota Drive, 19th Alder District. Consideration of a conditional use to construct an accessory building on a lakefront parcel, and consideration of conditional use for accessory buildings in the traditional residential consistent district to exceed 1,000 square feet of total area. Agenda item 22, Legistar 74050, located at 5710 Mineral Point Road, 19th Alder District. Consideration of a demolition permit to demolish an office building. Agenda item 23, Legistar 74051, located at 418 East Wilson Street, 6th Alder District. Consideration of a conditional use in the urban mixed use district for a nightclub, and consideration of a conditional use in that district for an outdoor eating area for a nightclub. Agenda item 24, Legistar 74047, reapproving the final plat of the West Wind subdivision on land generally addressed as 10554 Mineral Point Road, 9th Alder District. Okay, I will open the public hearing. And since there are no registrants wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Cantrell. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Solheim. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, going back then to agenda items 3, 4, and 5. And we will consider these in one public hearing. Following the public hearing, the Plan Commission will make separate findings and motions on each agenda item. First, we will hear from Colin Punt of our staff to give a brief description. Colin.
Thank you. Excuse me. Before the commission now is the proposed demolition of a one-story commercial building and shed, rezone of the property at 219 North Fair Oaks Avenue from temporary A to TRU1, and the necessary conditional uses to construct a 4-story 112-unit apartment building on approximately 4.3 acre parcel that has recently been attached to the city from the town of Blooming Grove. The property borders Starkweather Creek. Proposed parkway, roughly centered on the creek, is officially mapped over the eastern portion of the property, and a 66-foot wide reservation for the future extension of Chicago Avenue is officially mapped east-west through the southerly half of the site. No portion of the building is located in the mapped floodplains, the wetland setback, or the City of Madison Parkway. Staff recommends that Plan Commission approve or recommend approval for all requests, subject to the conditions in the staff report in the public hearing, with a specific recommendation that the officially mapped areas for the extension of Chicago Avenue south of the proposed building be kept free of any improvements, and that future residents be informed of the extension to limit the project's impact on the city's ability to construct the planned street in the future. Heather and I are happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you, Colin. We do have a few registrants. The first is Doug Hirsch, 749 University Row, Potter Lawson, support wishing to speak, representing William Butcher and Eric Welch. I will open the public hearing and we will hear from Doug Hirsch. Doug, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. We just have a brief presentation for you. This project has 112 new apartment units, including 3-bedroom units, and 112 parking stalls, 46 on the surface and 66 below grade. Next slide, please. The site is interesting shape between North Fair Oaks and Starkweather Creek on the east side of town. Next slide. This is part of the Milwaukee Street Special Area Neighborhood Plan that recommended medium residential. Next slide. The existing building on the site, which Colin mentioned, is a metal building, a lot of gravel paving on the site, storage of boats and trailers all around the site. Next slide. And this is our site plan, which shows sort of the shape of the site. You can see the light shaded area where the reservation for Chicago Avenue would be. The building is designed around that so that it has a 15-foot setback from the future Chicago Avenue right-of-way, as well as from North Fair Oaks. It has a courtyard space, and that space is a green roof with additional underground parking in that area. And you can see Starkweather Creek to the south. The idea is to clean up the landscaping and install indigenous natural landscaping with sort of a mowed path for residents to take advantage of the green space along Starkweather Creek. Next slide. The exterior of the building, it's a 4-story building. It's raised up slightly because of the water table in the area in order to get the underground parking. On the next slide shows the view from Starkweather and shows the green roof where the activities will take place, and the walking paths here. Next slide. And some of the more hardscape on the green roof will occur so that we can keep the area towards Starkweather Creek more natural. And the next slide just has a few sustainable features that we're working on, and we're working on with focus on energy as well. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next registrant wishing to speak is Jeannie Kramer, North Fair Oaks Avenue, Madison, in support and wishing to speak. Jeannie, you have 3 minutes.
Jeannie, you should be seeing a prompt to unmute. You are allowed to speak on our end. Yeah, there you go. It now shows you as unmuted.
Jeannie?
If you're speaking, you're not hearing, but it does show you are. Could you check to see if you're using a headset or a microphone, if you have a mute button on that hardware? We're still anything. Yeah, if you're not muted and you're still unable to speak, let's try that again. We're unmuted. You.
Okay, good. We can hear you now.
I'm muted.
Okay. You have 3 minutes, Jeannie.
I don't think I'll take 3 minutes. I just wanted to voice my support and approval for this project. I am most likely the person most impacted by it, as my property abuts the new development. Land use, the infill project plans to improve the shoreline, removing invasive native species and protecting the natural area there. I'm sorry, I haven't. This proposal is from a local business, and they've shown a real commitment to the. And I just wanted to voice my support for the.
Oh.
And that's what I want.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie, for speaking up about that. The next registrant, Anastasia, William Butcher first on East Washington Avenue, Madison, support. And he has indicated he is available to answer questions, not wishing to speak. Anastasia Benko is the next registrant, University Row, Madison, in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions. Eric Welsh, Spate Street, in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions. Those are our registrants. Are there any questions of any of the registrants? Any questions of any of the registrants? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Commissioner Fernandez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Forgive my ignorance on this. The Chicago Avenue, is that intended to cross the creek? Is that the purpose of that reservation?
Yes, the Chicago Avenue crossing of the creek and extension into the Voigt property was a strong recommendation in the Milwaukee Street Special Area Plan, and then the Plan Commission Council approved the official mapping of that future right-of-way reservation.
And just a quick follow, what's the width of the right-of-way reservation there?
I believe it is 66 feet.
Okay. Thank you. One last question, probably for Colin. Does the city own that property on the other side, on the Voigt property? Just a quick summary of what's likely to happen there in the very near future.
That may be Heather may have more information on that than I do right now.
Heather?
The city owns some of the property in the area, a sliver further to the east, and then some of the property to the northeast as well. I don't believe that the city owns the property immediately east of the creek at this point. It's part of the officially mapped future right-of-way reservation at this time, but the city doesn't own it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Cantrell.
I read that one of the conditions of approval is that any improvement in the Chicago right-of-way or the proposed extension of Chicago right-of-way be removed. And I've noticed in the presentation that there were some walkways proposed through that area connecting to a green space that is proposed in the plan to be dedicated in the future, I assume, for open space. But will the city have some sort of an agreement with the developer on that? That they'd have to remove it if a street improvement was conducted, or will you require that they remove it with approval of this plan?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Commissioner Cantrell. The intent of that particular condition really had more to do with the structured garden beds that were shown on the original plans. We've spoken with the applicant about that, and they understand that relocating or removing those from the future street makes sense as this development moves forward. I think we wanted to avoid the situation where such a treasured resource might be really difficult to move in the future. I don't think the same concern goes for simple pathways through that don't involve structured, garden beds or structured amenities.
Good. I was hoping that would be the answer, because I think that having those proposed walkways connecting to that green space would just be an amenity to the project at this point. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cantrell. Are there further questions? Alder Heck.
Thank you. This question, it may be for Heather. This is about this particular proposal, but it also makes me think of a bigger issue. There's a condition about the applicant obtaining a bicycle parking adjustment, because I think of the access area being smaller than typically required to stalls, as well as having structured stalls, I guess, count for the bicycle stall requirement. And it seems we're running into this fairly often. And so I wondered if you thought the Transportation Commission or TPPB or someone might need to take a look at those requirements if we're going to often be adjusting them. Staff is adjusting them, I assume, and has the power to do that. But perhaps the requirements are outdated now, given new technology for bicycle parking, or new thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we would definitely want to involve our colleagues in zoning in that discussion. I think I feel some tension in two different directions. One direction is, maybe we currently require too much space that isn't necessary for that access area. But then on the other hand, sometimes we learn from folks who own and utilize cargo bikes for a lot of their transportation that, really that room isn't enough. And so maybe we need a more refined approach that, a checklist or pick list that accommodates different types of bicycles. We're not there yet, but I think the conversation is certainly welcome.
Thanks. I hadn't even thought about the opposite problem with cargo bikes. So thanks for bringing that up. I'll perhaps discuss this with others in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Heck. Commissioner Shepard.
Hi, I was just wondering, was there any input from was it Friends of Starkweather Creek or any other sort of neighborhood organization? I may have missed it in the staff report, but I'm just curious, was there any other input or comment from anyone else? Because I know the Friends of Starkweather Creek they're usually pretty active. So,
Colin or Heather? Colin?
I am unaware if there was any. I believe that there was a neighborhood meeting in the past, but I'm not sure if we got written comments from Friends of Starkweather Creek.
I see that Alder Foster, whose district this is in, wishes to say something. So, Alder Foster, you're on.
Thank you all. Trying to multitask making dinner here. But yeah, I don't have any written comments from either of those, but I did just want to share feedback from the public information meeting, which was, I think, really well received by the neighborhood. There were members of Starkweather there also. I know there were some follow-up conversations, and I have received no negative feedback or concerns from folks in the area or from Friends of Starkweather. And I also support the proposal.
Thank you, Alder Foster. Appreciate your being here. Did you have any follow-up questions, Commissioner Shepard? No. Okay. Are there any further questions of staff? I don't see any raised hands. So is there a motion? And this would be on the consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a commercial building. Commissioner Cantrell.
I will move that the Plan Commission find that the standards for demolition permits are met to approve the demolition of the one-story commercial building.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Fernandez. Commissioner Cantrell, did you wish to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any comments, input from any of the commissioners? Seeing none, we'll come to a vote. I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Next is we will need a motion on creating Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of the property. Is there a motion? Commissioner Cantrell.
I will move that the Plan Commission forward the zoning map amendment, rezoning 219 North Fair Oaks Avenue from temporary ag to TRU1 to the Common Council with the recommendation of approval.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Fernandez. Commissioner Cantrell, did you wish to speak to your motion?
Only that this is consistent with the neighborhood plan that we've just recently approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or input before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. And finally, on this project is consideration of a conditional use. Is there a motion? Commissioner Cantrell.
I recommend that the Plan Commission find that the standards for conditional use are met and approve the multiple family dwelling with greater than 60 units in the TRU1 zoning, and to allow the construction of a 4-story, 112 unit apartment building.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Fernandez. Commissioner Cantrell, did you wish to speak to your motion?
Sure. I believe this does conform with our neighborhood plan, our Milwaukee Street neighborhood plan, and it's certainly a pioneer project for this area. And I think it eliminates some blight, provides needed housing, what we certainly need. And it's a good project, and that's why I'm recommending it be supported. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Cantrell. Are there other comments, input in regard to this project? Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you. You know, I'm certainly in support of this. But I had a question that I forgot to ask earlier of staff. Is that appropriate? I don't think.
Go ahead. You can ask.
I don't think it will prejudice the answer. But has there been any concern with site contamination here, and has that been either addressed or remediated? Is that a concern at all?
Colin or Heather? Colin.
I'm unfamiliar with it being a major concern. I think there will be some degree of remediation that occurs that would in any sort of full redevelopment, such as like there is here. But I'm unaware of any geotechnical testing that came up with anything that's worrisome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this motion before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Since everything else was on the consent agenda, Then we are now to business by members. Any of our members have any business that you want to bring to the attention of the other commissioners? Seeing no raised hands, now we're to Secretary's report. Heather.
Thank you, Chair Zellers. Looking forward to our November 21st meeting. We'll have the Lake Street ramp that I mentioned last time will be before the Plan Commission. And that's the redevelopment of the Lake Street ramp to include an intercity bus terminal and almost 250 apartment buildings above. The Hartmeyer site, 2007 Roth Street, for a 250 unit and a 303 unit, two buildings on that site, which you may remember seeing conceptual plans for a couple of months back. Those will be before the commission. And then way out on the far west side on Junction Road, rezoning for a future bus rapid transit terminal. And then finally, the last one I'll mention, right on State Street, the 600 block of State Street, an addition, a 4-story addition to an existing 2-story building to add 24 new apartment units. Also on the 21st, I believe we will have before the commission the Transportation Demand Management Ordinance that was just recently introduced at the council meeting. The Transportation Policy and Planning Board will be lead on that, but I believe it will be landing at the Plan Commission on November 21st. And then looking forward to December 12th, we'll have a few additional items beyond what you see on your list here too, but I'll mention the first one on the list, the 6604 Odana Road, rezoning, demolition, and conditional use for a new 4-story or 6-story building with 87 apartment units. So that's an exciting project in the Odana area plan area. And then also for the 12th, we anticipate, these have not yet been introduced formally at council, but we anticipate that the transit-oriented development overlay zoning ordinance will be before the Plan Commission on December 12th. So you've seen that many times and helped to shape it. And then also, another transportation-related item our colleagues in Department of Transportation have been working on is the Complete Green Streets Initiative, which lays out a typology of streets for street reconstructions and future streets across the city that we think will really be beneficial to future planning efforts. We believe that that will be landing on the December 12th meeting as well. And so quite a few major transportation and land use related initiatives are all coming here right at the tail end of 2022. So just wanted to mention those three, even though they don't show up yet on this particular agenda. And as Chair Zellers mentioned, we'll also meet in an informal work session on December 8th, and that will be an in-person meeting in the Madison Municipal Building on the 2nd floor, room 215. We've confirmed that just recently, again, starting at 5 o'clock. And Chair Zellers and I will meet tomorrow to lay out that agenda and get that to you shortly. I think that's it for the Secretary's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, very much. Any questions of Heather about any of that? Okay, any further announcements? Seeing no raised hands, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Cantrell and seconded by Commissioner Solheim. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. A short meeting. See you on November 21st for probably a longer meeting. Thank you. Take care.